Hey, I am Ryan, and we are the Limestone Group focused on national parks within the Appalachians and the Gulf Coast. Since we are focusing on the parks spanning along the East Coast, they cover a wide area that is not the easiest to tie together until further back in the geologic history. But the largest thing that they have in common is that the East Coast was formed through multiple different orogenies by the creation and later separation of supercontinents. This, combined with years of changing sea levels, has given way to the unique terrain known as the Appalachians, covering around 2,000 miles from Alabama up through Maine, according to the National Park Service, and then Florida and the Virgin Islands from Pangaea as well. While the majority of our national parks sit on the North American plate, one of the odd men out is the U.S. Virgin Islands National Park, as it is an uplifted section of the Caribbean plate. When the Caribbean plate was created with the separation of Pangaea during the Mesozoic, as seen in this photo from geologist Benedict Brazos, it caused the uplift of volcanic rocks from underwater volcanic eruptions, which became our present-day island sitting at the edge of the North American Caribbean plate transform fault, according to geologist Jason Chater. According to Chater, the U.S. Virgin Islands are part of a submarine mountain range running off along the coast of Florida, including other islands in the area such as Puerto Rico and Cuba. And you can see this fault is central because the North American plate is moving west while the Caribbean plate is moving east. According to Kay Hall with the National Park Service, this area became a national park on August 2nd, 1956, after John Rockefeller donated the majority of his purchased land on this island to the U.S. government with the intent of preservation, and now protects much of the surrounding waters and coral reefs as well. On the North American plate, nestled in central South Carolina between a network of lakes that are connected by the Congaree River, is the area of Congaree National Park, as seen in photo 2 on this slide from geologist John Graham. This area has been dominated by flooding, both historically and present day, which has led to the unique formations carved throughout. According to geologists at the USGS, this area was formed as Pangaea broke apart, with creating valleys through extension that later became filled with 10,000 feet of sediment deposited from surrounding mountain ranges. This is what laid the basement for the Congaree floodplain, as seen in the photo 1 from Graham. Graham shows how sea levels continue fluctuating, depositing sediment across the area from the Mesozoic to the Cenozoic, with these deep marine sandstones on top of shallow marine sandstones in the cross section. Graham's research also shows that present-day Congaree formed during the Holocene and has been under continual erosional stress from mass wasting flooding events whenever the Congaree River runs high. According to the National Park Service, this area was established as a national park on November 10, 2003, to help preserve some of the last remaining old-growth floodplain forests. Both of these parks are at risk of hurricanes, which are expected to increase according to Graham.
Hi, I'm Riley. Acadia, Great Smoky Mountains, and Shenandoah National Parks all contain evidence of what the Appalachian Mountain Range used to be. Along the coast of Maine, Acadia was officially designated a national park on February 26, 1919, though it was known as Sieur de Mont National Monument 3 years prior. According to Emma Forthofer from the National Park Service, mud, sand, and volcanic ash were deposited in an early ocean and metamorphosed into Ellsworth schist. This new rock was brought to the surface through erosion and plate tectonics, though granite and diabase are also present when wandering through the park. Around 2 to 3 million years ago, glaciers slid through Acadia, creating valleys, polishing the mountains, and leaving long scratches and crescent-shaped gouges that carved the landscape today. Sargent Mountain Pond, as shown in the black and white picture, is known as Maine's first lake. The National Park Service notes that for 12,000 years, the land was inhabited by the Wabanaki people and was later studied by the Chamberlain Society in the 1800s. Similarly, for 9,000 years, Shenandoah National Park's upland slopes were the hunting and gathering grounds for American Indians before resources and water to power mill operations were extracted from the region in the mid to late 1800s. The upper right picture is an example of some of the settlers and their lodgings before the land was set aside as a national park. Long before people inhabited this region, these mountains formed during the Grenville orogeny as heat and pressure melted the rocks deep in the mountain's core. As a result, the National Park Service has noted that Shenandoah has an assortment of basement rocks, greenstone lava flows, and the Chiloe metasedimentary rocks. On December 26, 1935, Shenandoah was labeled a national park. The Great Smoky Mountains were labeled a national park on September 2, 1940. According to the National Park Service, during the Proterozoic era, the African plate collided with the eastern edge of the North Atlantic plate. The collision and the continued inward movement of the plates eventually formed the Appalachian mountain chain. Erosion and uplift created the region now known as the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee and North Carolina. The National Park Service has noted that sandstone, silt, and shale are the dominant rocks in the park. However, it wasn't easy transforming this land into a national park. According to the National Park Service, many small farmers occupied the land along with paper and timber companies. As a result, many families had to leave their homes.
Hey, I am Gabe. Mammoth Cave National Park is known for having the longest cave system in the world with over 405 miles mapped. In the top picture from the National Park Service, you can see the entrance of Mammoth Cave. According to the National Park Service, between 4,000 and 2,000 years ago, Native Americans discovered Mammoth Cave. According to the National Park Foundation, Mammoth Cave National Park was authorized in 1926 and was fully established as a national park on July 1st, 1941. Only 40 miles of caves were mapped at the time of establishment. Mammoth Cave was later named a World Heritage Site in 1981. According to the United States Geological Survey, the rocks that make up Mammoth Cave National Park were deposited when the area was under an ancient sea 330 million years ago. The park consists mainly of limestone, dolomite, sandstone, siltstone, and shale. These sediments are usually found in marine environments, and this further validates that there was an ancient sea covering this area. In the middle picture from the National Park Service, you can see stalagmites and stalactites inside the cave. Over millions of years, the Green River has carved the limestone rocks of the park and has created the world-famous Mammoth Cave. You can see evidence of groundwater erosion in the bottom picture from the National Park Service. According to the United States Geological Survey, groundwater started carving the limestone caves about 10 million years ago. According to the U.S. National Park Service, scientists have learned how the region of Mammoth Cave in the past was submerged by water, and they are concerned that climate change, especially warming temperatures, could kill hibernating bats and increase invasive plant species. Today, visitors and explorers from all over the world come to visit Mammoth Cave. According to the National Park Service, like Mammoth Cave, New River Gorge has sedimentary rocks including limestone, sandstone, and shale. New River Gorge also has some layers of coal. Mammoth Cave and New River Gorge are also less than 300 miles apart and are both in the North Atlantic Appalachian watershed. According to the National Park Service, New River Gorge National Park is a whitewater river that flows through deep canyons and is also one of the oldest rivers on the continent. This is very ironic given its name, New River Gorge. During the Appalachian orogeny, uplift caused the existing river to incise and the new river followed the gorge. In the first two pictures, you can see the river flowing through the gorge. In the 18th and 19th centuries, people mined the gorge for coal, and today old structures are still standing in the gorge from this time. In the bottom picture from the National Park Service, you can see coal miners from when New River Gorge was mined for coal. According to the National Park Service, New River Gorge was established as a national river on November 10th, 1978, and was just recently established as a national park on December 27th, 2020. According to the National Park Service, geologists have estimated that it has taken anywhere from 3 million to 320 million years for the river to cut and erode the gorge. The gorge consists of many layers and sections of sedimentary rocks. Some sedimentary rock layers total 4,000 feet in thickness, and it has been estimated this has taken 7 to 10 million years to deposit, according to the National Park Service. Scientists are concerned about climate change and how it could affect the amount of water traveling down the river. More water and higher and more forceful flows will speed up erosion in the gorge. Today, New River Gorge is visited and enjoyed by many.
Hey, I'm Reed. Everglades National Park is located on the southwestern tip of the Florida Peninsula and consists of around 1.5 million acres of protected land. After many years of trying to get the approval, Everglades National Park was finally passed through Congress on December 6, 1947. According to Kim Klitgord, around 180 million years ago during the Jurassic period, was rifted away from the Western African plate underneath the Atlantic Ocean. For millions of years before the last ice age, remains from the marine creatures that used to inhabit the sea helped to create the limestone, which is bedrock for the Everglades, which you can see in the top image on this slide. Ever since the last substantial interglacial period, 130,000 years ago, the many carbonate rocks of Florida have been greatly exposed to weathering. The most commonly seen terrain at the park results from the chemical erosion of carbonate rocks such as dolomite and limestone, which can be referred to as karst. The park's limestone gives the park unique hydrologic conditions that drastically change the environment annually. Climate change is rising and the sea levels have added to these annual changes by making them far more severe. Dry Tortugas National Park is a grouping of 7 islands covering less than a fifth of a square mile of the southwesternmost point of the Florida Keys. Founded as a national park on October 26, 1992, the main island, Garden Key, is home to rich American history, including Fort Jefferson, which you can see in the top right. Covering less than a fifth of a square mile of land, the other 101 square miles of park are submerged and consist of coral reefs and sand beds. Located on the top of the Florida platform, dolomite and limestone make up around 5,000 meters of platform underneath the Dry Tortugas National Park. With the advance of continental ice sheets during the Pleistocene epoch, much of the surface of the Florida platform was exposed, which led to the erosion of carbonate rock and coral reefs formed outside of the Florida peninsula. Once the ice sheets advanced to their current state, coral reefs were exposed, creating limestone bedrock that became Florida Keys and later Dry Tortugas National Park. Biscayne National Park consists of islands that are part of the Florida Keys, starting at Soldier Key in the north and Big Pine in the south. Founded on June 28th, 1980, these islands were the first discovered by Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon in 1513. 100,000 years ago, during the Pleistocene epoch, shallow coral reefs thrived in this environment. During a glacial period, the water subsides, revealing the coral reefs in the open air, which turned them into stone, also known as Key Largo limestone. In conclusion, these national parks are what make up some of the most pristine and unique ecosystems along the eastern coast, which is why these are areas that are specifically set aside for preservation. From Acadia up in Maine to Virgin Islands in the Atlantic, each national park has a complex geological history connecting all together from when they were supercontinents dominated the Earth up until our present day national parks that we are able to experience and see. The common trend seen in this, as humans are continually impacting the climate, we are continually upping the risk of negative impacts that would affect the long-term preservation of these areas. With more appreciation and research, we can help ensure further conservation. Here are our bibliography slides. And thank you for watching.